Good morning, everyone. So I want to welcome you all to participate and make your contribution to making this conference a success. The first topic of the morning is the issue of devolution and devolved government, and with reference to the Bill of Rights. And as we assembled here in March 2018, we've almost reached the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Belfast Agreement, or the Good Friday Agreement, take your pick, everybody else seems to. There's been no functioning executive or assembly in Northern Ireland for well over a year. MLAs have, of course, continued to draw their salaries, and this week their pension contributions were made secure. Yet vital services are threatened because it's impossible to have ministerial decisions in the absence of ministers, and protracted negotiations between Sinn Féin and the DUP find ever novel and inventive reasons as to why a devolved administration cannot be restored. Of course, not everyone agreed. Nationalist irredentism and unionist extremism combined in opposition to the agreement. The people, however, said yes to the agreement. In May of 1998, the Central Executive Committee, the Arcolia of the Workers' Party, met to consider what the position of the party should be in relation to the agreement. This was in the context of a long campaign on the part of the party for devolved government. The party recognised the limitations of the agreement and expressly noted at that time that the agreement failed to reflect many of the concerns of the party over the previous 30 years. However, the party welcomed the agreement as a realisation of the hopes of the people and as an opportunity to advance the long-standing and consistent party policy in its demand for devolution and the pro-party's programme of anti-sectarianism, peace work, democracy and class politics. Accordingly, in the interest of securing a permanent peace and continued democratisation and reform in Northern Ireland, together with the possibilities that such an environment might create to unite workers around a common programme for socialist politics, the Workers' Party called for the mobilisation of democratic and progressive opinion in support of a yes vote. The primary limitation which the party referred to, and which has consistently and prophetically come home to roost, was the institutionalisation of sectarianism within the spirit, content and structures of the agreement. At their first meeting, members of the Assembly were required to register a designation of identity, so-called, whether they were nationalist, unionist or other. Quite apart from the unseemly debacle at an early stage in which members sought to redesignate, exposing the ludicrous nature of the requirement, it further underscored the fact that in terms of the governance of Northern Ireland, the status of other counted for nothing. The agreement, its institutions, structures and architecture, together with the future of the working class, remained firmly in the hands of the all-class unionist and nationalist blocs. The problems and difficulties experienced in the implementation of the agreement stem from this central weakness. In attempting to address the divisions of Northern Ireland society, the agreement placed division at the very heart of the agreement. Based and grounded its structures on sectarian division, and failed to provide a mechanism for dealing with the deadly disease of sectarianism. Instead of tackling the issue of sectarianism, which was a major problem in society, the very institutions of government were based on that division. An agreement constructed on the faulty foundations of sectarian division, an institutional framework which incorporates sectarianism at its core, and an assembly and executive which effectively manages sectarianism rather than seeking to eradicate it, will not and cannot deliver for the working class. And the process inevitably becomes a recipe for competing and conflicting communal interests, continuing division and open sectarian conflict. It isn't possible, of course, in the context of this particular contribution to rehearse the detailed proposals for a Bill of Rights put forward by this party over the decades. This party has put forward a detailed plan for a Bill of Rights. But the Workers' Party's attachment to the concept of a Bill of Rights is not based on sentiment or in some abstract philosophical position. We believe that the purpose of a Bill of Rights is to establish and to guarantee the relationship between citizens and the state. We believe that the Bill of Rights must perform as the guarantor of civil liberties of all citizens and their political rights. Such a bill must enshrine fundamental principles constituting a clear statement about the nature of any political institutions which are established and operated in Northern Ireland. So to that end, the Bill of Rights must provide a positive statement of the rights which each citizen can expect and demand from the state. And it must provide the means whereby those rights will be protected and enforced if they are infringed. A Bill of Rights which is established on a concept of equal citizenship must emphasise the struggle to end sectarianism and must be a fundamental part of that. The Workers' Party believes there's one community in Northern Ireland, fractured and divided by sectarianism. Our ideology is founded on the politics of class. We subscribe to the creation of a working class, united and indivisible, which has sufficient power and political class consciousness to transform the society in which we live. Every step or action which encourages, incites or promotes division is an obstacle to building a united working class, and it's a gain for the politics of division. Northern Ireland has long experience of power remaining in the hands of one political group for the greater part of the life of the state. This experience and the subsequent period of direct rule witnessed the abuse of political power and the violation of civil and political rights. It's not sufficient for the people of Northern Ireland to remain dependent on the goodwill of the government of the day, whatever that might be. The class united and conscious of its power as a class is necessary for change, for the revolutionary transformation of society, the abolition of capitalism, and the building of a democratic, secular, socialist society in which power is firmly in the hands of the workers and where the wealth of society is used for the benefit of the many and not for the profit of the few. Thank you.
And Jerry just mentioned the Bill of Rights. If we had a Bill of Rights that made everybody in this province feel good, know that there's a Bill of Rights there, not getting up in the morning wondering, have we a Bill of Rights? Is there something in place that protects me when I'm at work and on the services which I want? But a Bill of Rights that everybody can work to, it would diffuse the people in Sinn Féin, and I name them, and TUP, who are getting even. They have to stop getting even.
So 50 years ago, we would have said that we wouldn't have been in a position to defend the state. And I noticed that Jerry mentioned that we should defend the state, but we can only defend the state that is doing with a Bill of Rights that is in a position that we would defend it. And we're defending the devolved government. We're standing here saying that the devolved government is only show in town, and we're defending it, and yet we can pick massive holes on it. And there's a contradiction in ourselves. But it's very clear to see. We want a government and an institution that we can believe in, and we've been failed because we haven't been provided with it.
I'm going to be very brief. Kathy Johnson, I'm a visitor, and thanks Lily for welcoming me and former member of the Workers' Party. I was very struck by what Mary said and about why is there no support for the Bill of Rights. She's referenced Marion and what Marion had said at the time, the Good Friday Agreement. But basically it was institutionalised sectarianism. Now Jerry has talked about Section 75 protections and so on. My rights are not recognised under Section 75. I'm a dissenter. Both my great-great-grandfathers fought in the Battle of Antrim, like they were beaten, but it doesn't matter, they were there. And I would cast myself as a dissenter and an atheist, and I have no protection for my civil rights. But the main thing that strikes me about civil rights, and the words of one of my heroes, Angela Davis, the great American civil rights activist, justice is indivisible. No one can decide who gets civil rights and who doesn't. And I think, that is the bottom line, and that's what we want to go for.
Devolved government. Government of what? The basis of our government really is, as Jerry has put out, further institutionalised sectarianism. Now, what do we disagree on? Basically,
we have to look at what they agree on. They both agree on the fundamental basis of the economy, that it should be a market economy. The late self-proclaimed socialist Martin McGuinness said that we had to reorientate our economy from the public sector to the private sector. How he equates that with socialism mystifies me. So there's plenty of them to agree on. But to keep this political system going, you have to keep the working class divided. Now, how do you do that? Very cleverly, you talk about flags, like the nationalist, the unionist flag, the issues that we had around that, and now we have the use of the Irish language for the other side. The main objective of which is to keep the working class divided so that they don't become aware of what unites them, and that is economics, where our bread and butter is and the money we have in our pocket.
I think the real question for us, think back even before the Good Friday Agreement. The party policy even before the Good Friday Agreement was ever heard of was still for devolved government. And we did that for very specific reasons. That it was a better system of governance, but more importantly, it would create the conditions when it might be possible for our types of politics to flourish. Now, nobody is going to make our politics for us. We have to do that ourselves. And the real question must be, what can the party do to exploit the opportunities, if you want to put it that way, or to engage in the cynicism or the lack of faith that people have in the political process as to how it's worked out. There are people out there who don't see themselves as unionists and nationalists, who view themselves as being socialists on the left in whatever varying degree, and that's the only political constituency that this party can appeal to. The real question must be, how are we relating to the communities in which we live? How do we relate to the trade union movement? What do we do to offer citizens the opportunity to support the Workers' Party? And I think that's the real question that we should be addressing.
The reality is that we've already mapped out in successive policy decisions and successive statements and successive positions a very clear path through the current impasse on the inability and the refusal of Sinn Féin and the DUP to form an administration. First of all, the restoration of the Assembly is an absolute and utter unequivocal priority. That's the bottom line. There is a responsibility on political parties to govern Northern Ireland and to form an executive to do that, to bring in a budget, to administer public services and the rest of it. That is an absolute requirement. That has to be done.
North Belfast branch. I think it's right to do the critique, but don't be leaving bits of it out. When we embarked upon supporting the Good Friday Agreement, it looked nothing like it looked at this moment in time. Actually, we knew there was warts in it, but we were prepared to sort of move forward. And we knew that peace in itself was not actually anything to write home about. It was the absence of guns, bombs and bullets. And that was worthy sort of fighting for. But let's, when we're doing the critique now, look at what actually happened. Let's look at all of the stops and the starts and all of the constructive ambiguity that has been put into the Good Friday Agreement from day one. And let's look at the role of Tony Blair's government and Bertie Ahern and Fianna Fáil, the Americans and part of Europe, when they actually let two big parties, two sectarian blocs, go into the St Andrews Agreement, go into a room on their own and copper-fasten sectarianism forever and a day. Because that, folks, is exactly what happened. We need to start focusing on what's good for us, the working class. That's our constituency, that's the concern of this party. And even going back to the Bill of Rights, and John Jeffries is quite right when you talk about a piece of paper and a bill in itself is not enough. It's how you implement, how you enforce, and how you do all of the other things. So we should be focusing today on outcomes and solutions that benefit the working class, because we have been stitched up, sewn up in every conceivable way by churches, by all the great and the good and everybody else. Our role is now and will always be to defend the interests of the working class. Thank you, Conf.